All right. Hey guys, how's it going? Paul Johnson back in here. We are doing another book review. Who would have thought? So we're doing Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I would say this is a pretty easy read. I would just say it's more abstract concepts. That's why we don't have a PowerPoint or anything, because I just feel like it's not really needed. I mean, I figured a little easy thing that I would do, right, is I would just go through the title of the main topics in the book. It doesn't really feel like chapters, to be honest, because it's kind of just goes and transitions. Um, but yeah, it's the content of the book, right? So I figured I would just go over like the big lessons that he teaches, right? That's pretty much what this book is. It's supposed to be like a book of lessons. I think it's a broad book. It's very broad. It's kind of a fun read, if you ask me. I think I finished this book in just about a day. I mean, it's not too long. It's kind of shorter, smaller pages. It's what final thoughts. It's like 330 pages, but really, as you can see, it's a small book. It's not big like in comparison. It's not a big book. It's no you know Alex Harmozy, $100 million leads. Like, look at this book, two of my hand, two, maybe a little more of my hands. This one's about one. So it's not that big of a book. The font is smaller, so I think it's kind of proportional. But either way, like I said, I think it's kind of a fun read. With lots of stories kind of being told in this book. I definitely marked it up a good bit. Let's see if it'll focus. I don't know if you, there you go. See that? I like. Oh, right there. I marked it up or but annotated. If we're using technical words, but uh, yeah, I mean, it's a good like introductory book. Kind of starts putting some thoughts in your head about some things, but I just don't feel like it's a very good guiding book, right? Like, this isn't gonna be the book that tells you what to do. That is gonna be the book I just held up. $100 million offer, $100 million leads, Alex Harmozy, 10 out of 10. I recommend those books. I actually haven't even started $100 million leads, but if it's anything like $100 million offers, it's definitely worth it. Alex Harmozy is a big inspiration for me. I'm still in my early stages of entrepreneurship. I wouldn't even probably call myself an entrepreneur. I call myself more of a entrepreneur. I've never legally registered a business with the United States government. Either way, but I really do want to be an entrepreneur. I want to put money in my family. I want to be able to have the freedom that entrepreneurship and wealth and owning and being your own employee kind of thing consists of. And this is kind of like my story of me getting there, right? And hopefully, maybe if you're watching this, you see me being very successful and owning businesses and hopefully doing better quality videos than this one that's I'm recording off of. I believe it's a 720 if I'm not mistaken, Logitech webcam. Not certain. Either way, let's get into the book review. Sorry for the long intro. So either way, right? So he does a little introduction. He talks about how his dad was a scholar, a teacher, professor, right, at a big university, and his best friend's dad, who he says is Mike, if I'm not Mike, his dad is a entrepreneur. He's a business owner, right? In Hawaii, all this is taking place. And so he kind of just explains the basic principles that his poor dad, his actual father, his biological father, expected to get more from his employer. And yeah, and the rich dad didn't expect anything from anybody and had to figure everything out on his own. So if he was broke, he figured out how to start a business, figured out how to sell, right? Things like that. So chapter one, lesson one: the rich don't work for money. So what he's essentially talking about is rich people don't necessarily work for their money, right? They have other people work for them. But that's one part about this book that I think a lot of people might kind of get and might have a similar opinion on is like these principles, like the rich don't work for their money, like yeah, they do. Like, how are we defining work, right? Like, to me, work is putting in energy to achieve something. So, even if your work is managing people, managing your portfolio, meeting with people, talking with people, right? But I get kind of what he's saying. He's just trying to say that, like, they. I mean, he also talks about it later, right? Like, inventing money. But even, which we'll get into because there's another one about how the rich invent money. But yeah, he's essentially saying other people do the dirty work, right? Like the bottom line work. And I get what he's saying. Like he's trying to explain to you what people at the top do. But until you're at the top, all you are going to be doing is work. And even if you're at the top, if you're still trying to grow a business, you're going to be doing a lot of work. So unless he's talking about somebody who's a passive investor who has other people managing their portfolio, or something like that, it's like there's always work being done to some degree. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are more passive investments, right? Like stock market, like mutual funds. You just put your money in the mutual fund and they grow on average, what is it, 7 to 10% a year, and that's it. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, and that's where you maybe see this being a repeating thing throughout this book, is that there's a lot of like just very broad, very abstract concepts that's like I don't think that they help you that much. That's why I call it more of a fun read. I don't think this is some big self-help guru. And one thing I will say actually, I did subscribe to his email newsletter, and I will just say half of them were absolute BS. I literally had an email saying that one once in a lifetime offer, this amazing book that's going to help you make a bunch of money. It's only $1 right now. Well, the book may have been $1, but the thing is you cannot buy the book alone, and you had to buy a bundle of books plus taxes and shipping and handling, all in all $20. Sure, not that much, but in contrast to $1, that's a lot, right? And another book we'll get into later that I'm currently reading is Influence. Talks all about contrast. So if you tell me, oh, here's a book for $1, and then I'll say, oh, now I gotta spend $20, that's 20 times as much as I was planning on spending. So why the heck would I want to spend $20 when I was promised $1, and now I gotta spend 20 times as much? It's not good, and that's also opposite of how you influence the human mind. Anyways, so I will just say his email newsletter I have found to be a joke at best. Yeah, I mean, it just felt like I was constantly being like lied to some extent, and it just felt like I don't know, just a bunch of phony baloney. Like, and I don't like to be a critic or be negative, but I'm just being honest. I mean, I was subscribed to that newsletter for at least a few months minimum. I mean, I think at least 3 months or so, and I read every single email, and I never gathered anything from it anyway. So, getting back to the book we're currently talking about, Robert Kiyosaki, um, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which we were talking about him, just a different thing. But Chapter 2, Lesson 2, Why Teach Financial Literacy. So he just talks about how the poor people don't teach their kids and themselves how to make money. That's it. So he just talks about why financial literacy is important for growth, which who would have thought, right? So Chapter 3, Lesson 3, Mind Your Own Business. I don't really remember what it was. Yeah, page 127, by the way, is chapter 3. It's also one of those books where it's like the end chapters just seem to fly through. Um, oh, so so he talked about like rich people. I talked about rich people worrying more about assets and poor people worrying more about liabilities or how much they're making from their employer. So not much. I mean, he's just talking about rich people invest their money, poor people buy liabilities or expenses. They create larger expenses. They don't create more cash flow through assets. So Not going to go too in deep that way. If you don't know what an asset or liability is, assets is something that you take your money, you put into it, and it produces money. And a liability is you take your money, you put into it, and now it costs you more money. So income generating versus income subtracting. So yeah, like a liability would be a car because it's expensive. You got maintenance, depreciation, insurance, etc. An asset might be like a stock, right? But it's a potential asset. It's not a guaranteed asset. There's lots of little pieces that go into that. Anyways, we're gonna keep moving. Chapter 4, Lesson 4, the history of taxes and the power of corporations. He essentially talks about corporations having, I wouldn't say a loophole. Some people might call it that, but I don't think it's really a loophole. It's just using tax law for your benefit, and it's essentially talking about how you can run your taxes through a corporation, and when you do that, you pay less in taxes, essentially. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Chapter 5, the rich invent money. So this is another, I would say, kind of controversial subject slash topic. He talks about how rich people invent money. I don't know if I agree with that sentiment. He's essentially talking about how, with the more knowledge you have, you can recognize a good deal. That's essentially it, is that you can recognize a good deal. And also, he's saying that rich people are constantly open minded and looking at ways and opportunities for quick flips, essentially, right? It's pretty much like short selling the stock market, or another way to look at it is I know a stock is about to blow up tomorrow because of Q4 earnings. It's at an all-time low because it's right before the Q4 earnings. You dump a bunch of money, let's say $1,000 into it. Q4 earnings come out way better than expected. Stock price jumps up 30%. Now you went from $1,000 to $1,300. You sell, and boom, you just profited $300 in less than 24 hours. So that's essentially what he's talking about. Is when he says the rich invent money, is they just the examples that, at least that's off of the examples he gives, but he's just saying that rich people think more independently and realize opportunities because of their education and their knowledge in business, investing, etc. So that's all that's about, which is good knowledge. Don't get me wrong. That is good knowledge. To, once again, it's just about being financially literate and learning about how finances work and why markets work. Anyways, let's keep moving on. I'm trying to have this not be a crazy long video like every other one. Chapter 5, the rich. Never mind, I already did that one. Chapter 6, work to learn, don't work for money. Lots of entrepreneurs and successful people talk about this. Is if you're going to work, do not work for money, work to learn. Yeah. I mean, if you're working for somebody else, don't work for them because you're trying to make as much moolah as possible. Work for them because it's teaching you a skill. Now, contrary, what you can do is you can do either independent contract work and then start your own business on the side and work on that business in your free time, and just do the contract work when you need to and just enough to get by and pay the bills. And then if you need a little extra for whatever it may be, you can do your contract work. Since it's that's what I'm doing personally right now in my life. So like one instance, right, is I DoorDash. So I gotta pick my schedule, choose when I work, choose when I don't want to work, and yeah, I just make enough money to make ends meet, and then overall I want to work on a business and grow a business, which I am still um, theorizing. Anyways, let's move on. Okay, we're done with chapter 6. All right, 3 more. Chapter 7, overcoming obstacles. Hold on, what was the example he gave for that? I think that's just like very broad. Oh wow, who would have guessed, right? Broad subject in this book. Um, oh, yeah, it talks about fear. Yeah, it talks about this a lot in the book. Fear. So instead of using fear as a deterring factor, he uses it as a determining factor, essentially. So, what I mean by this, right, is a lot of people are afraid of not paying their bills, so they work at their job and they wake up every day to go to their same deadbeat, boring job instead of finding alternatives, right? Independent contract work, what I do. So he's talking about that, and then the rich use the fear as motivation, like, oh my gosh, I can't pay my bills, so I have to figure something out on my own, such as starting a business or finding contract work to do. It's pretty much what he's saying. Yeah. So Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. I think definitely stepping outside your comfort zone, putting it all on the line, because like one of my favorite and most inspirational people, content creators, book writers, authors, all the above, entrepreneurs, Alex Hormozy constantly talks about, right? He talks and refers specifically about how in 100 years from now, or no, let's say 200 years from now, right? When you're well gone, and we're all, and me and potentially anybody watching this video is also well gone, right? Nobody's gonna remember. Nobody cares that you were late on a credit card payment at one time. Like we as humans like to overstress the small stuff, like sweating the small stuff, right? And that's where that quote, "Don't sweat the small stuff," comes from. Because none of it matters. Think about this again. Remember, if you zoom out enough, the Earth becomes a very small speck, if not impossible to see. Just if you look at the map of the observable universe, you have to take a fucking arrow and point. I apologize for the profanity, but you have to point to Earth. And even then, even when you know exactly where it is, you still can't see it. So, yeah, why not take the risk? Why not? Why not be the guy who sells everything and goes for it, chases their dreams? Right? You only live once. Might as well make it interesting. It's because who likes boring? Sounds pretty boring to me. Moving on. Chapter 8, getting started. I don't fully remember what he. Hold on, let me. Oh, yeah, the gold is everywhere. People are not trained to see it. Once again, just talking about understanding your own knowledge, working on your own knowledge, continuing to grow your own knowledge, and understanding and learning more. Yeah. Chapter 9, still want more? Here's some to dos. What did he get for that one? 321. It has been a while since I read this book. I should have did a refresher, but I didn't. Yeah, so he just says, look for new ideas, stop doing what you're doing, find someone who has done what you want to do, take classes, read and attend seminars, make lots of offers. So essentially what he's saying, learn, stop, if you have all these big goals, tomorrow is not the day to start, today is the day to start, which I will also say something I actually struggle with myself, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, right, is being able to do this, right, is being proactive and not procrastinating, right? A very wise person that we had talked about in one of the other videos of the best self-help book ever, right? Stephen R. Covey, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Put first things first. Don't procrastinate. Be proactive. Rich Dad Poor Dad, ladies and gents. Robert Kiyosaki. You know, I don't have overly much to say about this book. Uh, outside of it's just another one of those self-help guru books, right? He talks about how rich he is and everything, and it's like, okay, um, it's some very rudimentary, basic principles. I don't think it's useless. I think it's a good read. It's one of those ones where it's like if you're bored of reading, or not bored, but you're just fatigued a little bit from reading very heavy science books, kind of thing. Like your $100 million offers, $100 million leads, where he gives like step-by-step process of things to do, and you're just like, man, I need a break. This is a good break book. It still reminds you, it kind of reminds you of why we do these things, of the purpose of doing these things. It gives some fun little stories here and there. But yeah, it's definitely not going to give you a how-to on how to be rich. I mean, it's going to give you the idea of how some rich people have done it, or how maybe he's done it at one point or another. But he's not going to give you the blueprint, the blueprint, which is what Alex Hormozy, $100 million offer, $100 million leads, does attempt to do, which we will be making a book review on as I finish those books, because I know for a fact that those books goated for a reason. That's why Alex Hormozy is who he is. Anyways, you beautiful human beings, ladies and gentlemen, lords and ladies, whatever, guys and gals, males and females, feminines and masculines, my beautiful humans of this God green earth, I thank you for your time. I thank you for tuning in to this YouTube video on Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave a comment down below in the comment section, as I do read all the comments. And if you guys have any specific books you want me to review or have anything else, also leave that down in the comments below. If you think I'm trash, leave it in the comments below. If you think I'm extra trash, leave it in the comments below. If you are a super kind person and you want to say how bad my camera quality is, leave it in the comments below. If you guys want to say how pasty and white I look because of this trash camera and the lighting, leave it in the comments below. Either way, I love you guys. Have a great week, great month, great year. Have a great life, you know. I mean, don't remember, this is all finite at the end of the day. And we're just here to live, love, laugh, have a good time, and maybe achieve some goals if that's our purpose in life, right? So, but either way, I wish you guys all the best, and I will see you next time. Make sure to subscribe and smash the like button. Yeah, baby. Bye, guys.